Hello. How we doing? What's up, my friends? Welcome back to another video. I hope you're all doing well. On this fine Tuesday, we got to witness another city demolishing by Bodo Glimt. Congratulations to them for all of that, to smashing City. We broke them. It certainly looks like Pep has Carrick stuck in his head, has no idea what to do. He's broken him. It does start to feel like it might be Pep Guardiola's last season here. It does start to look that way, but certainly he seems out of ideas and struggling. Be great if Carrick is the one. It would be great if Carrick is the one that ended him and had him feeling all types of ways. But yes, I hope you're all doing well today. Some interesting news, obviously, that we want to talk about. I think I was not live yesterday for the first time in like a month since around Christmas. But hold on. Enter. Oh, they've bottled it, haven't they? Oh, they've bought it. Never mind. Anyway, it was a very, very interesting day of news as well. There's talk about this meeting this week, a big old meeting. There's talk about that. Of course, there were some names brought up about potential loans for United in January that we'll talk about. I kept calling him Loftus Cheeks in my video this morning because I can't help but repeat the slander name. It's stuck in my head as his actual name, but fortunately we're not going to be signing Loftus Cheeks, so I don't have to apologize for my my accidental continued usage of his slander name. I can't help it. It just comes out of my mouth. It's ingrained in me. It's hard when there's players who've played for like rival clubs. I'm always saying stuff things get stuck in your head and then you just can't get away from it. So the good news is we will not be signing Loftus Cheeks, okay? So I don't have to worry about it. But yeah, got a few things to discuss on that front. In terms of the, the overall thing. I've got a few things to discuss there. Otherwise, it's gonna be interesting. Obviously, a long week in here between City and Arsenal. Everybody's riding high at the moment, feeling very, very good. And I think that's what we should be taking for where we are right now, is just enjoying the win, not think too much about the consequences, not think too much about the big picture yet, not make too many assessments. It's a funny week, though, because it's hard to discuss anything in some respects in the big picture when you get a win like the one against City, because after we beat City, obviously, with a new manager, new head coach in the door, all of that, it's like, don't sell anyone, keep everybody, extend Casemiro's contract, extend Maguire's contract, Bruno stays, everyone stays. And it's not a week where you can have particularly productive and, what's the word for it? Measured conversations, right? And that's good. You just want to enjoy it in that respect, but it's not a week to have those kinds of conversations. That's one we'll have to revisit again after a loss, because then people's feelings are going to be very different about all of these players and things. But it's where we can't get carried away in our conversations about what we need to do in the future to continue pushing this club forward. Because look, the reality is still, guys, we're sitting here. A lot of these players were in team last 2 seasons. I'm watching the Champions League on the screen behind me, and we're not there. And we haven't been there in a couple of years. And there's a lot of players who've been here under multiple different managers that we haven't gotten us into the Champions League. It ain't perfect. There's a lot of things that still need to be fixed at this club beyond the manager. And we're going to need to make some brave decisions this summer about certain players and things like that as well, in order to move into the future and continue the climb to get back on top. Arsenal, another set piece goal, doing their usual thing. Yeah, avoid corners.
Do you feel like you had the wrong take on players like Mainoo and Bruno now? Think a lot of people would argue Bruno's the best player in the Premier.
That is the exact kind of take I'm talking about. Bruno being the best player in the Premier League right now. Okay. If someone wants to see it that way, that's cool, man. I'd rather just take it for what it was, that Bruno had an amazing game. Where was that against Brighton? To make these giant sweeping overreactions. We just got knocked out of the FA Cup by Brighton the week prior with a lot of the same players on the pitch. Okay? I don't think we should make these giant sweeping things. If all of our players are so good, we would be doing a little bit better. We still have issues. Bruno's a great player. He's a great player. And put in a position where his deficiencies aren't standing out so much is definitely the right call and will allow us to see the best out of him. And the same goes for everybody in the team. But no, I'm not going to say that in one game that makes someone the best player in the league. But Bruno is a fantastic player. But I've seen a lot of games. I've seen a lot of games. We drew Burnley 2 games ago. We lost last week.
Berardi left City without a transfer strategy. Cool face emoji.
Man, yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, he did. He did leave City without a transfer strategy for sure. They look floundering, but no, I mean their transfer strategy is still sign a shitload of people. Just keep spending money. I guess that's it. Well, obviously, the next few months under a different coach, under a different setup is going to change things. A different setup, a different coach is going to change things. I mean, like, it's interesting. You know what I mean? Exactly. It depends what type of cake you're trying to make. Need the right ingredients, square pegs, round holes, and all of that. You know what I mean? So, like, from the City game, we would go, it looks like who's going to benefit? Kobbie, Bruno, probably Mbeumo. Hopefully, it means we keep squeezing Ahmad into the team. Who's potentially not going to benefit? Well, Šeško didn't make it on the pitch. So does that mean Šeško's now an awful player because in one game he didn't get an appearance? You know what I mean? Is that what we're saying? No, of course not. It doesn't mean that. We're going to have to see how things go over the course of the rest of the season. We don't want to get too, make crazy statements off of singular games. Benjamin Šeško doesn't even make an appearance. Lenioro doesn't make an appearance. That doesn't make them bad players. Doesn't make them useless players. Doesn't mean they're not going to have a place under Michael Carrick or that suddenly, again, we're not saying, oh, well, Carrick can't coach because he didn't get Šeško on the pitch and get him going. Like that would be silly. It would be a silly thing to say. But it's the wrong, like I said, it's the wrong week to have any sort of sensible discussions. Right now, let's just enjoy it and not make massive, sweeping, generalizing claims about anything. Let's just enjoy that we had a nice win because we've got to play Arsenal next week in a few days, And if we win that away at the Emirates and we're putting together an incredible performance, trust me, I'm going to sit there and go, okay, okay, fantastic stuff. But then I'm also going to be looking and saying, but there's one more test. There's one more test beyond that. That's going to tell us a lot, okay? And that's Fulham at home. And ironically, that is probably, I'm looking at that Fulham at home game more than, I'm looking at that Fulham at home game and saying I'm more worried about that than the City and Arsenal games. I'm more worried about that than the City and Arsenal games, for sure. Those are the ones that struggle. Those are the ones that we struggle with. Those are the ones that turn us down. we're getting a lot different. We get the City at home. We get the Arsenal away. It's the Fulham at home type of game that where this season we fell down, Everton, etc. Where the prior season we lost 3-0 to Bournemouth, and at home, like the games we're supposed to dominate for a few years now, we've been shit in. We've been absolutely shit in. Those are the ones that worry me, because after Arsenal, if you look at our schedule, it's, let me pull it up and see where it is. Those are the ones that tend to worry me. Let's see. After Arsenal, it goes Fulham. All right. And then we get Tottenham. Okay. West Ham, Everton, Palace, those are the games I'm sitting there going, all right, I don't know. That's what I want to see. Those are the ones. We just lost to Brighton at home. We just failed to beat Burnley away, but then we beat City 2-0. Like, this is the type of team we have. And I'm waiting to see proof of life that we can beat those teams and win those games consistently before I personally get too carried away, because that's where all the points are. That's where you build on the table or you fall down the table. Those are the big games. Those are the ones that matter. So you have a lot more of those than you do, the City games. The Brighton game is still burning into my retinas, in terms of how painful that was, because we saw a very different game when we had to have the ball and we had to try to play. That game we had 60% possession, just for what it's worth. Oh no, why is it not sharing? Oh, hold on 1 second. We had 60% possession in the game against Brighton, and we lost 1-2, and it was terrible, right? And we lost. And it's a lot of the same players, Bruno played, Kobbie played, Lissandro played, Dorgu played. A lot of the same players were on the pitch. And we had 60% possession, and we got screwed. It was bad. So, it's a big difference, and there's it's still hard to trust this team right now, because you take a 60% possession game, we lose 2-1, and you take a 32% possession game, and we win it 2-0 in dominating fashion. Those are the questions. No Brian and no Ahmad. That's for sure as well. But again, you look at it in terms of the opposite style of game where you have the ball a lot. This happens to us all the time. When we have the ball, we're kind of crap. But again, Mbeumo, Ahmad, where did they do their best work? On the run, in transition against City. We didn't get those transitions against Brighton. They just sort of sat off a bit and said, you're not going to be able to do anything with it. And a lot of teams have done that to us. And that's the real test. That's what's going to determine where we're at, like with Fulham. I think that's going to be a big one. And I'll be honest, I think Arsenal are going to let us have the ball too. I know that's like not necessarily, it's just a feeling. Based on the last few games that we've played against Arsenal, I think they're going to let us have the ball. They've done it on a few occasions outside of the cup when, we had a red card and all of that in it, which was a stupid, ridiculous red card. They let us have the ball recently, and same with opening game of the season, and said, you have the ball, see what you can do with it. I'm very, very concerned about that aspect, but we're going to find it out. We're going to find out. We're going to find out very soon on that front. But that's that. Obviously there's it's a good week, and like I said, I don't want to get into all the name, like after Brighton, don't sit there and point score and stir up a ton of drama, and I'm not going to do the same after City. It's a good week, and we should just come on, camera, and we should just take it for what it was, a really, really nice win, and see what happens next. See what happens next. Yeah, 61% in that Arsenal loss. Exactly. When we've had the ball, a lot of times we've struggled. So we'll see if that changes. It changes a lot of things too. It changes the way that you defend out of possession when you have the ball or don't have the ball. It changes where you have to run. It changes how you have to run. It changes so many things when you have the ball versus not having it, you know? And we can't yet underrate that or overrate ourselves and get fooled, because I want to be over the top positive. I really, really, really like Michael Carrick. I really think he's potentially a very, very good coach. And I think that he could get us into Champions League. But there's far, far too many sweeping, factualized statements being made after a singular game than should be. A lot of people need to have a bit more of a measured take. In reverse, we'll see it this way. In reverse, we'll look at it this way. How many people a month ago wrote off Patrick Dorgu? You know what I mean? How many people a month ago wrote off Patrick Dorgu and were saying Patrick Dorgu's shit, doesn't have the technical quality, doesn't have the abilities. He's just another bowling ball, physical player who just runs around a lot. You just like shin kickers. That's why you like Patrick Dorgu. And then you look a month later, look at him now. Look at him now.
Important context, I would argue United have not employed a good in-post-season coach who has improved us in that aspect post-Fergie.
I actually totally 100% agree with you, Alfred. That is the problem. That is a big, big problem for a long, long time. It's so it's so bad. It's been that way for a long time. Every manager we've had has, for one reason or another, prioritized counterattacking transitional football without much by way of possession. And so we don't really have the foundations built to play possession football. The closest to it was LVG, right? He was the only one who prioritized possession. But he didn't last that long, and it was a bit of a weird time, and then he got sacked. And you could argue, a lot of different things about that. He was probably the only one, but it was a long time ago. It was a long time ago, and he got that control for sure, but he didn't know what to do with it particularly, and we quit on that project what a save by David Raya. But we quit on that project as well, and abandoned it because it was so boring. And that's something to bear in mind. You know what I mean? It's something to bear in mind. It's hard for United on that front as a United coach, because I don't think we have the ability to
a good coach should be able to get good possession football that pins teams back and breaks slow blocks with a mod.
I agree,
Bruno,
actually.
Mumo, Kuna, Kobbie, etc.
I actually completely agree with you. 100% I agree with you. It's my biggest frustration is always been those small games that we still looked very toothless in small games with all of the talent and the players that we have. We'll talk Kobbie in a second here, but under Amorim, I think for me it was, let's start going back. Let's take the Tottenham final last year. Not to totally speak about Amorim, but if you take the Tottenham final back last year, they spent 60, 70 minutes sitting behind the ball after taking that early lead, or 25-minute, 30-minute lead, whenever it was. They were so defensive in that game. They just sat in their box, and we could have played 180 minutes and we couldn't have scored. And one of the problems was things like personnel choices, that we've gone far too often, far too defensive with personnel choices. But we've never been that good at breaking teams down. And that to me is the big test of the next coach, because I think there are enough really good attacking talented players in United's team that we should be able to beat teams in low blocks. We should be able to score goals. We should be able to see patterns. I agree in terms of all of those talents you're talking about. And then you have to factor in set pieces, right? And this is what Arsenal do. in terms of set pieces, we've got some good set piece players too, and we've got good height in Šeško, and we've got good height in players like Maguire, and and good aggressive corner attackers like De Ligt. Like, we've got the players that should attack and be able to break low blocks down. And for me, for sure, that's one of my main tests of the next manager. But it's also why I'm not getting so hyped yet, because for years we've been a team that does play well in big games. How that translates to small games has always been the problem. What we did against City, we can't do against Fulham. It's not going to work. Casemiro and Mainoo sitting deep for most of the game, 70% of the game out of possession, sitting in our half as a deep lying pair, is not going to do the same thing against a Fulham when you have 60% of the ball. It's not going to do the same thing. So you're going to have to figure out, how do you get that together? How do you work it all out to make it effective? Are you still going to play Patrick Dorgu and go into that 4-4-2 block? Or are you going to have him play up higher on the pitch? Are you going to push that defensive line 20 yards forward so you can counter press, win the ball back quickly, attack, things like that? These are all questions under Carrick we don't have the answers to yet. He's a pragmatic guy. But at Middlesbrough, he had a very good attacking setup, and then defensively it was kind of troubling. Well, that's a question we're going to have to face here, because attacking-wise, we've actually been pretty good this season, but we haven't been able to defend particularly well. If we change from the City setup and do the exact same thing and try it against Fulham, and we have to push 30 yards up the pitch, suddenly Casemiro, Mainoo, Maguire, Martinez, that block of four is defending not in their own box or not at the edge of their own box, but at midway. And that's where we struggle. And that's where we're going to have different ideas, because I think we have the players to score. I mean, look, let's face it. We've scored a lot of goals, right? We're one of the best teams in the league at scoring goals. But when we score, we very often concede a lot of goals. That's what was so great about City. We were able to score without giving up anything by way of chances. Against Fulham, we're going to have to commit a bit more to scoring. Against Arsenal, we might have to commit a bit more to scoring. But then how do you stop that and not concede?
Steve Holland's supposedly a defensive setup genius.
Yeah, and that's what I want to see, Alfred, because it was good for a defensive performance with 30% possession. When we have 60%, it's going to be a different question. That's twice as much of the ball. You know what I mean? If you think about it by way of minutes, 30% possession means that we only had the ball for 27 minutes of that game, right? When you have the ball for 54 minutes, those extra 27 minutes in the opposition half is the real test. And that's what I want to see from Carrick. And that's kind of what I'm excited about, as well, because I have hopes. And it's not so much can we score, but can we score without opening ourselves up defensively? Because I think we can score. I think time has proven, when you look at the stats this season, we can. I think we lack the DM with the legs to play the way Carrick would likely want to. I 100% agree with that too. That is totally true. We don't have that, right? We don't have that. And it's a different job. It's a different job to cover ground when you're having to make vertical runs up and down the pitch rather than shuttling runs side to side in a defensive block. It's a very different type of athleticism and football needed. Casemiro can do the shuttling side to side. Kobbie Mainoo can do the job shuttling side to side, as we saw from the City game and from the numbers. A lot of running in that respect. It's very different when it's very vertical on the defending, and you're trying to stop people at pace. But we'll see. That's Carrick's job, and I hope he can fix it, because it's been our Achilles heel for a long time. It's definitely been our Achilles heel for quite a long time. Is how do we break down these small sides? I mean, it was the same thing under Ollie, right? Like, God, if you go back, I don't mean to go back like too far into the past, but when did Ollie get sacked? Was it 21? Why do I want to say it was 21? Yes, it was 21, wasn't it? 20. 20? No, it was 21. Surely it was 20. Yeah, there was Southampton. There was the next season. Yeah. Yeah. So look, like if you take a look all the way back at the results, where were they? Yeah, there's Watford. All right, yeah. Let's take a look at that. If you go back and look at like these results, like look at the, the big games were crazy. We would go from 3-0 Tottenham to 5-0 Liverpool. Jesus Christ. We got 2-0 by City. We got 4-1 by Watford. Look at all these big games in a row. Arsenal, Chelsea, Champions League, Watford, City, Champions League, Tottenham, Liverpool. That was a rough run. But if I go back a little bit earlier than that, we smashed Leeds, but Southampton was 1-1. Wolves was only 1-0. West Ham was tight. West Ham we lost. Villa was a tight loss. Like Everton was a 1-1. Leicester was a tight loss. Fulham 1 goal. Like you could see these small games. It was 1 goal, 0 goals, 2 goals at absolute maximum. We've struggled for a long time in doing that. We've struggled for a long time in doing that, in breaking down small sides without losing. We lost a lot of games and dropped a ton of points to those small sides all the way back then, and it just hasn't changed. Carrick got his player instructions right and platform the 11 he put on the pitch. Keep things simple. If he can continue to do that, we'll be fine for sure. And again, I do think it was easier. It's an easier game to have those kinds of instructions. I think the smaller games are harder for us, and they have been for a long time. That's why I'm just waiting before I get too excited. But it was the best big game setup I've seen in 5 years at this club. The best big game setup and big game performance. And Carrick's a great coach, so that makes sense. I want to talk about this. I thought I'd have more people giving me shit about it yet, but Aaron, you mentioned, and I did want to comment on that. Saw a clip of me saying Kobbie can't run. So look, this is all within context, I think what I would be doing right now is praising the work that Kobbie did against Man City. He did an amazing job against Man City. He worked incredibly hard against Man City. I thought it was his best performance in years as a player. It's also months in, and he's been training and working hard and improving, and he looked a little bit quicker than I've seen him in recent games. But fantastic, he did that. When I spoke in the past about Kobbie can't run, that whole conversation was under the context of why is he not playing under Ruben Amorim. It's obviously not a literal, broad-sweeping statement of he can't run, because obviously he can run. Every footballer can run. The context was what Ruben Amorim wanted from his midfielders. In that context, Kobbie didn't work. That doesn't make Kobbie a bad footballer. It was an explanation of why he wasn't playing for Amorim. Whether you agreed with it or not, whether you thought Amorim was a total shit manager like most people did or not, that was the reason. Because he couldn't run at the level that was needed or wanted of that position according to Ruben Amorim's needs under that coach, under that manager, who had us basically the biggest difference we've seen in just a one game from what Amorim was doing to what Carrick is doing is Amorim wanted big space players and prioritized big spaces everywhere. Midfield, defend big spaces, attack big spaces. Everything was big spaces. All Carrick did was make it smaller. Make a lot of it smaller. Make a lot of it much, much smaller. And shorten the gaps between the players. That's why we see the rondos on the pitch, right? That's why we see the rondos on the pitch. Because he said, you know what? Let's make it small. Let's bring everybody close together. Let's bring everybody close together, and then they can all pass and move and do all the things that we need to do in these small spaces. That's the biggest difference in what we saw in the one game before. And that suited for sure and helped a lot in that situation. But that was within the context of it. Completely. It's obviously Kobbie Mainoo can run. Can Kobbie Mainoo sprint up and down the pitch with high recovery pace? No, he can't. Neither can Casemiro. And within the context of that as well, like, I think some people are painting as if I hated Kobbie Mainoo or something like that. I've always explained why he didn't fit within Ruben Amorim and why I hoped as well he would be patient. I always didn't want Kobbie to leave. I also will add, to give myself a little bit of credit here, even though I don't do like the over the top stuff on player. I've been asking for Kobbie Mainoo to start over Casemiro for like 3 fucking months. It's been baffling to me that Casemiro played during all of those games, because I can understand the argument that Kobbie Mainoo doesn't have great recovery pace and things like that. But I can't understand the argument when I was watching what I was watching from Casemiro in a lot of those games. When I'm sitting there going like, well, hold on a second, but I'm watching Casemiro get blown by game after game after game, and I broke him down. Bournemouth, etc., showed how Kobbie Mainoo came on, made us way better as a team, how Casemiro was essentially nowhere to be found for 3 of the 4 goals. And, you know, to me, that was always baffling. And to me, that was, unfortunately, was at a point by then where there was obviously something personal between Amorim and Kobbie, which was a shame, honestly. Definitely was a shame. But I never have wanted Kobbie to leave. Not once have I ever wanted Kobbie to leave. And I still see him as a great talent that could be somebody who could take over from Bruno in different contexts and things like that too. Maybe it'll be different, not because they're the same player or anything like that. But no, I certainly 100% stand by the view that for the type of recovery runs needed for Ruben Amorim's midfield, it doesn't suit Kobbie Mainoo. But then the question is a different question. Is Amorim the right manager? Is his idea the right one? And that you can have a totally different opinion on, and that's been answered. He's gone. It's done. So we'll have a different manager. But why don't we wait and see what happens when we do have more of the ball to spot that there might be some deficiencies? Because we had 30% of the ball in that game against City. It's going to be harder. In games where we have the ball, where we are higher, where we need more recovery pace, where we're facing more counters, where we're facing bigger spaces and things like that. It is going to be harder because I don't think we have anybody who fits that. right now. Ugarte is the closest from a physical pairing, but he doesn't. If you look at the game against Brighton, when we tried to press, the midfield donut opened up again. When we were pressing high up the pitch and had to have more of the ball, suddenly the midfield donut was open and we had no ability to cover the midfield. So no, I'm not convinced at this point of anything. I still think we're lacking a huge profile in our midfield, because I wouldn't ask Kobbie to cover huge spaces. Because why? That's not his skill set. What is Kobbie so good at? Everybody knows it. The small space control, the possession play, the dribbling. I think he's an underrated defender in small spaces. I think he's so good at those things. So, no, I don't want Kobbie covering massive spaces. He's not good at it. And that's fine. He doesn't have to be. The profile we're missing is the partner to Kobbie Mainoo in a midfield too. The guy who's very physical, who can cover huge spaces, who can run up and down, who can run over players, and who can cover those gaps really, really well. That's what we're missing in the team to help platform Kobbie Mainoo. The problem we have right now is just that we don't have a good partnership. Casemiro and Mainoo is a good partnership if we want to sit 30% possession and stay deep.
To be totally honest, for me it's a red flag if a coach's system is so rigid as to isolate/phase out somebody who absolutely should be playing.
You know, the problem I think, Alfred, is I don't totally disagree with you, but I don't believe that He was frozen out because of his profile in the end. It definitely got bigger than that. And I don't want to go into it. I don't want to revisit the past. I don't want to go into those types of things. There's no winner in this conversation, to be honest. If I were to say everything that I knew, it wouldn't help anybody at this point in time. And I don't even want to get into it. You know what I mean? So you're not wrong. I don't think Kobbie wasn't playing in the end purely because of football reasons. Everybody gets a fresh start. Everything is started over. We have a new manager, sees things differently. Doesn't matter. I'm leaving that in the past, and I'm not going to hold. There's no reason to hold. I'm just going to leave it in the past on that front. But it would tend to agree with you. But yeah, I think that look, we were talking about this the other day about new managers, right? About whoever's the next coach. The big question will be, how do they set up their midfield? You know what I mean? How do they set up their midfield? How do they want to organize their midfield? It's something that's different to every single. It's something that's different to every single coach and every single manager. You know what I mean? It's very different that how they view it. For everyone, it's going to be different, right? I don't think we have good partnerships for the team. Like, we're just missing profiles in the midfield. And it's not, to me, about unlocking Kobbie like it was about unlocking Pogba, which was like an inevitable, impossible thing. But we just don't have good partnerships because no matter what, you still need more athletes than we have who are quality. You do still need more athletes. Look at Pep right now. Rodri physically has fallen off a cliff. His midfield sucks without it. It sucks without it. Now, we can all laugh and meme as we want that Pep is a bad manager. I will do it every single day. Pep stinks. Checkbook manager. Like, he's nowhere close to Sir Alex. Never has been. All of that. Obviously, he's still a quality coach. But he flounders without that ground-eating massive six filling and covering a lot of the gaps in his midfield. He flounders without it, right? And that doesn't make the other players bad. It just means that he doesn't have the right partnerships to make his team work. The club, I don't think we have the profiles at this club to make a good midfield in terms of complementary profiles, because it's all about covering up weaknesses, right? And that's sort of the point here. Is like, let's say anybody would be lying if they said there was no weaknesses in Bruno's game, no weaknesses in Kobbie's game, right? You have someone like Bruno, incredible creator, can be careless with the ball, not a great dribbler. So what do you want besides Bruno? Out of possession, sometimes a little wonky. What covers up Bruno's weaknesses and accentuates his strengths so you get the most out of him? You need technical security, you need defensive coverage, and you need physical ball winning so that if you do lose the ball cheaply, someone is smashing into someone, breaking up play, taking those tactical fouls and things like that.
From 2018 to 2023, he had the most physically dominant
100% Alfred, 100%
team in the league. Now he doesn't and hasn't had solutions for 2 years.
Yep, 100%. And he's struggling. And you can see how many games they're losing because of that, for sure, right? So, yeah, I look at that and I just go, you know, so you need that partner for Bruno. So then you take Kobbie, great in small spaces, technically secure, and actually quite a competent defender in small spaces, individual duels, things like that. What do you need next to him? Well, you probably need someone who, when Kobbie's going forward, breaking into the boxes, breaking through the lines, you need a really strong physical presence who can eat ground, break up counters, all of that. The same thing you need next to Bruno, but for different reasons. We still don't have that. We've got Casemiro, who, for all his intelligence, for the legend that he is of the game, it's obvious that his legs aren't the same as they used to be. So you're forced to play deep if you're going to make it work, like we did against City. And as soon as you go up the pitch, the problems start arising. And we could sit there and say, well, it's Kobbie Mainoo's fault. It's Bruno's fault. It's this person. Fine. It's a fault of just not having the right profiles that match everything up together. And that's where I see a Baleba or an Anderson or somebody like that having just a massive impact because they can cover these deficiencies.
And platforms,
yep.
Kobbie Mainoo.
Exactly. I think Baleba next to Kobbie makes for a perfect midfield pairing. I don't think Wharton does because he's also not particularly mobile. And that's a worry for me because then you're taking, again, it's like we're talking within context here. If you were to rate players on their mobility, Baleba and Anderson are probably 9s and 10s in those capacities out of possession. Kobbie's probably a 6. That doesn't mean he's not mobile. It doesn't mean he's like slow, but he's not a world-class out of possession player, and he probably never will be, and that's okay. He has good mobility because he's a very good player, but we're talking about in order to have a 10 out of 10 midfield, you got to cover that. We need that. You can't add a Wharton who also is a 6 out of possession in terms of mobilities, and then you only have a bunch of 6s out of possession because then you're never going to be better than that 6. You need some 10s out of possession to match things up a little bit, to cover strengths. So you can say, hey, we've got 2 10s. We've got a 10 who's a dribbler. We've got a 10 who's a passer. We have a 10 out of possession. I want 10s in all 3 of these things to form a proper balance of profiles. And I think that's what the club need. And that's the lacking thing, This graphic, because I know I've gotten a lot of people throwing this graphic in my face. All right. This is great. Like I said, what I would be taking this as is saying, look how hard these guys worked. Now, I'll give people one guess as to why 4 of our players were on the highest distance out of possession covered for one single game of all season, why 4 of our players were there. I'll give people one guess as to why 4 of our players covered the most distance out of possession of the season. There's one guess. And I just love when certain stats get thrown in my face when suddenly, we're ignorant of all the stats we've been talking about, especially ones that are clearly misrepresented. All right. The one guess is obvious. We covered the most distance out of possession because we spent the most time out of possession. It's not that complicated, okay? That doesn't play down. Kobbie had a great game and ran hard and worked hard and did a ton of work out of possession, okay? But it's this doesn't make the case that these guys are the most robust runners. We didn't have the ball. And that's okay. That's good. Kobbie did great work out of possession. And I would just be using that graphic as that and saying, well done. You did great work. Cool. Excellent. Love to see it. Love to see the energy. Love to see the effort. Happy with it. Cool. All right. If you go to like total distances and things like that, I would guess that we ran less than usual. You know what I mean? I would guess that we probably ran less than usual. Yes, Newcastle was our second least possession. That's why Ugarte is on there for second. Exactly. You're absolutely right. But again, I would just take it as, look how hard they worked. That's all it just implies to me. But without having contextualized games and possession in order to compare it to, it doesn't tell us much except those are the players who ran the most in that game. That's all it tells us. And that's awesome. But again, obviously, my statement on Kobbie Mainoo, bluntly put, saying, it was 4 months ago, saying Kobbie can't run. As a literal statement, obviously totally wrong. As a generalized big statement, obviously totally wrong. And not my intention either, to be fair. Not my intention either. And I can, but look, that's what happens when things are just clipped and taken out of context constantly, which is what happens every single day that people will do. You know what I mean? The context of the discussion was obviously, why is he not playing for Amarim? Because he didn't have the legs to make the runs. And I said that at the start of the season, why I didn't expect him to play, because he didn't fit the physical profiling that Ruben Amarim wanted. Does that make Amarim right? No. Does that make Does that mean Kobbie's a bad footballer? Absolutely not. And again, you've all been here. I've been saying I wanted to see Kobbie start over Casemiro for like the last months and months and months. It's been killing me. So I'm very happy that he played extremely well and that he's doing well. And hopefully we can keep it going. But the big question, again, we'll come back to is what we do with the ball in the next few games. Going back to transfers now and talking about that. Because clearly the club feel that we are missing a profile. That's why we're going to be signing 2 midfielders this summer. Oh my God. But even at the moment, so the latest news is that United are, of course, going to meet and get together and all of that, and decide on potentially sort of loan moves. Now, as I've said before, Ruben Neves not likely to be joining. Not likely to be joining. Has never really been a likely signing or anything like that. Loftus-Cheek's someone who was suggested to us, who was offered to us, not likely to be signing. Ndidi, I would have my doubts. I'm kind of sitting there going, why? Like, one of the things that's definitely happened since the switchover in coaches is I'm having a harder time for the exact same reason we just discussed. I'm having a harder time figuring out how a lone player could actually help us. You know what I'm saying? Because, like, under Amorim, for the reasons we just discussed, it was like we just need a midfielder who can run because it's big spaces, right? I think we need, like, if we play a midfield 3 in the way that we're setting up, we don't really know how Carrick's going to set us up now. But if we play a midfield 3, I'm sitting here going, I'm not sure what we need. We need cover, but why? We've got Ugarte, we've got Jacques Fletcher, we've got Kobbie, we've got Bruno, we've got Mason Mount who can play in the 10. I still think you could see Bruno deep in some games. You know what I mean? And we only have 15 games left. 16 games left of the season, excuse me. What? I'm not sure we need, like, why do we need to loan in a mediocre player in the midfield? Like, why? I would rather see one of the Fletcher brothers or somebody get one in this. Like, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't see why we need any, but if we were to get somebody of the quality that could bench Casemiro regularly or all of that, then I'm good. But, like, guys, it's 15 games. It's 15 games. Manuel Ugarte has only played. How many games has Ugarte played? How many minutes, rather? Manuel Ugarte has only played 737 minutes this season in the Premier League. 737. So he's on pace to play like 1,200 minutes. We're not exactly, like, starving here. We're not exactly pushing the limits. He's played 737 minutes. That tells you we've barely used him. It's been 22 games. That's an average of like 32 minutes a game. We're barely using players right now. Kobbie Mainoo has only played how many minutes has Kobbie Mainoo played this season? Kobbie Mainoo has only played, that can't be right. Holy shit, that is right. Kobbie Mainoo's only played 328 fucking minutes. Good Lord, some of you might have had a point, by the way. Amorim really didn't like him. 328 minutes. Yikes. So Mainoo and Ugarte have only played 1,050 minutes this season. That's 2 players. We're not on the verge of needing more midfielders. It's not more that's the problem. It's quality. It's not a quantity problem. This is a quality problem or a profile problem. You know what I mean? This is a quantity versus quality problem. He was injured for a small stretch, but like this is a quantity versus quality problem. Okay. This is not a matter of like we just need cover. We don't need to bring in Wilf Ndidi. I don't care what people say. First of all, I think Ugarte's actually been decent recently, but Ndidi's not better than anything we have. Ndidi's not better than anything we have. Come on. Surely nobody believes that Ndidi is better than what we have. Like, I know that people really seem to not like Ugarte. I think it goes over the top. But Ndidi's not better. And as apparently he hurt his hamstring at AFCON too. But Ndidi's not better. Who can we get on loan that's better? Genuinely. You know, who could we get on loan that's better than what we have, actually? And again, I think people take the Ugarte thing way too far. He's, especially now if we're playing in a 3, I think he'll be all right for us, especially, you know, defensively and such. But yeah, Gomez, but we can't get him on loan. Like, there's players we could buy. If we were willing to buy a player, I would still take Ederson, Gomez, one of those guys. I don't think we could get anybody on loan that's better than what we have. I don't think we can get anybody on loan that's better than what we have. There are purchasable players, but we're not going to buy somebody. You know, we're not going to buy somebody. So if we're not buying, then it doesn't matter. It's one game a week. We've got 15 games. You know, we would just ride it out. I don't see the need for a loan for now. Like, That I don't see, you know, buying, yes, but we're not going to buy someone. We're just not. We've definitely not heard. There's definitely no word coming that we're likely to make a purchase this summer because we're waiting for our big targets. I think we believe we can get Champions League and we'll get one of these top targets. So I look at the loans and I go, I ain't excited about any of this. I'd rather load a left winger. Yeah, well, me too. I mean, I would almost still rather, like, I have a little worry about the wing, especially because Cunha could play midfield now too. He could play as a 10, he could play as a 9. A little worry about the wings. I still have a slight concern about center back because we know Maguire has struggled to stay fit. And he's our best center back. De Ligt is in the upside down. We got a brief sighting of him in the stands, but we don't know if he'll ever be back again. Yoro is far out of form at the moment. Lissandro's had a great game against City, but again, that problem of once we're moving up the pitch, will some of the weaknesses he has get exposed a little more, especially because we don't have a great partner? Maybe. And then there's Aiden Heaven, who's young. Like, I still look at the center back unit, and I think in a month, with some bad luck, we could struggle with the center backs. You know, especially if we want like a pacey something. If Dorgu's a winger, then Shaw is our only left back. Can he survive? You know, being back at fullback shifts, can he survive when we need to attack? Getting up and down the pitch, will he survive, or is he going to get injured again? You know, those are questions that I have. I see a few more questions right now, at least defensively, than I do offensively. Right now, you know what I mean? So those are the questions that I have right this moment. No, I think De Ligt will be back. I'm just very worried about his situation right now. You know, it's been a long time out, and I think he'll be back, but maybe in a month or something. But, you know, Shaw back at fullback, I think it's a roll of the dice if he stays fit. You know, the center back from a fitness standpoint definitely suited him. You know, we apparently trying to buy this young kid from Sheffield Wednesday. That would be nice. I mean, I've said, look, all I'm asking for in January is can we get like another 8 in heaven or do some work, you know, like that. Sounds like that might be a similar type of player. It might be a similar type of player. You know, in that getting some young, talented footballer, maybe that helps. Carrick says MDL is close to returning. I hope so. I really hope so. But yeah, I mean, we have a period where we have 1 game in 3 weeks where we have like 2 games or 3 games in like 41 days or something. Like, it's gonna be dry as hell, you guys. But yeah, I'm just not sure we need anybody anymore. Like, I don't want to sign someone of us to bring someone in for the sake of it. Mazraoui will be back. I think Matthias de Ligt is our only missing player starting this weekend. True. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know how do you guys feel? I mean, I did that in the thing. 51% said no point in those loans. Is there genuinely a reason to sign anyone right now? If we're not gonna get a serious target, is there anybody worth actually getting that we've heard? Like, is there a name? Let's say we're not buying someone, okay? They've decided Gomez, not good enough. Ederson, not good enough. We've got a serious target in summer that we want. It's going to be Baleba or Anderson, and we're nailing that down. And then we've probably got someone else in mind who isn't available in January as a second midfielder. Is there a single name we've heard that could potentially be available on loan that would actually help us right now? We really only want needle movers, yeah. I can't think of one. I seriously can't think of one. It's not my job. I'm saying, have we heard any even? Like, have we even had links? Stiller, there's no way you're loaning Stiller. And I think that they have concerns with him regardless. I think that one was always a bit overdone for what it's worth. I've said that for the minute. Loftus-Cheek. You guys think Loftus-Cheek would actually help us right now? The kid from Ivory Coast, but he's going to be like 80 million. Cheeks, Loftus-Cheeks. He's not actually that bad a player, funnily enough. He is a decent player, but like, I don't know, man. I don't know that actually makes us better. Like, where's he going to play? Over Kobbie? Like, that's my question then. So let's say you say Loftus-Cheek. All right. Guys, where's he playing? He's got injury issues. Where is he playing? I want to look at something really quick. Hold on, just want to go back to my my list here so we can look at it. We can go through some names together for long-term targets and walk through them. James Garner. That's a discussion for another day. The Garner thing. Loftus-Cheek could do a job for 20, 30 minutes to give Casemiro, Mainoo, Ugarte a breather, but they barely play anyway. Why do they need a breather? Why do they need a breather? These guys barely play. Let's see. Where is this? No, why is it so huge? What the hell? Annoying. Why is it doing this? My PowerPoint's all screwed up. Weird. There we go. Sorry, I was gonna open up the one I did before Christmas that covered like a lot of our names. Kind of go over it with you guys again. Go through all the names and kind of look at the situation. But yeah, okay, got it to work. Okay, cool. Garner's probably gonna sign a new contract, but as well, I think all right, so this has changed obviously, but still not necessarily wrong. It wants 2 hardworking out of possession players with good on the ball. Passing is a bonus. Lean more towards shield, evade, 6s for now. These are the names we've looked at, and we can kind of walk through them. Buwadi, young player, really liked. Arsenal already have him on the radar. Don't think we can get him right now. Could be the second midfielder we buy. I would keep an eye on that one. Yeoman, that's probably off the table. Ruben Amorim was asking for him. Very much like Casemiro, but that's not going to happen anymore. Yarmouk, that's one to think about as a potentially cheap number 6. Let's say we were to end up selling Ugarte in the summer and losing Casemiro, losing Ugarte, and we brought in like Baleba. Yarmouk could be another 6 as an option, but again, also not probably somebody they want to buy right now. Gomez, potentially very obtainable. Seems like he's going to go to Atletico, but they've decided that he's not somebody they want to spend the money on right now. Baleba's a top target, versatile, probably a top target this summer. Wharton, obviously you're not going anywhere now. And then Anderson, likely a top target as well. So the guys we really like, they're just not available at the moment. And these are a lot of the names we looked at. Then there was Eights. Stiller, we've scouted him for years. Concerns over the league transition, lack of physicality and combativeness. Ederson is all action, highly admired. But again, Gallagher went to Tottenham. Javi Guerra is somebody we could think about later on. It may not be an 8 at all. It might be 2 6s. You know what I mean? It might end up being 2 6s that we end up getting. It may not be a 6 and the 8. So, I'm not seeing any names here. Obviously, some of these players, we've decided we're not going to buy them in January, which means we probably don't rate them high enough to add to and finish our midfield, right? Like if we really wanted Ederson or Stiller, we probably could get him. If we really wanted Gomez, we could probably get him. If we really wanted them, we could. So you have to think that our real targets are the ones, our final targets are not any of those players. But none of them are available on loan. By the way, here's some names they looked at for center backs. There's others as well. Livramento has been looked at. LaCroix at Palace has been looked at. These are some of the names. Gahey ends up going to City after all. Inacio is probably not going to happen. It probably wasn't going to happen before, to be fair. Lukeba is still on our list. Schlotterbeck, I think a lot of people believe he'll go to Real Madrid or to Bayern or something. But certainly center back will be a subject of discussion this summer as well. But look, I just don't see any of these guys as options that we could just get on a loan in January. Murillo will be on our list. Bastoni will be on our list. But yeah, I guess we'll see. You know what I'm saying? LaCroix is gonna, some people really like LaCroix. Some people really don't, Lexi, it's definitely gonna be one that has different tastes for different people. We'll see, Thinking of new manager also. What if we get a target now that's possible new guy doesn't rate or use? It's a risk. But what can I say? Lacroix. What can I say about this? As far as I know, we will be planning to discuss with managers, potential coaches. We will be looking to discuss some of the names for transfers as well. We did do that in the past, obviously different management. but they will be discussing it with them. And this is why it's so important we finalize our plans in April, because as I understand it, as we're building out a short list of coaches, we'll also be building out, of course, these short lists of players. And then it'll be part of our discussions with said coaches. You know, this is who we're looking at. These are the players we're going to want, and starting to make some of those plans. And again, is why hopefully we could, we need to set that coach up early so we have time to get all these things done. Hackney certainly could be back on our list. He was a player we watched for some years. I think I linked him to us 2 years ago. And then we kind of faded away from it. He's looked so good under. He was so good under Carrick. You think we'll know our coaches by end of April? I think that's the idea. Let's put it this way. If we don't, then it's Thomas Tuchel. You know what I'm saying? Like, if we don't know who it is before end of the year, then it's Thomas Tuchel. Right? Like, that's the answer. Because Thomas Tuchel's the only guy that we probably would have to wait on that we'll seriously consider. So, in essence, I do think we will know one way or another. But, like I'm positive we'll be hearing things and stories and leaks and all sorts of shit well prior to then, because things have already, there's things that are sort of happening. So yeah, it's not going to be Nagelsmann though, at least at the moment. You know, we're talking about Premier League experienced managers. That's like, again, I can only go off of what I know right now, which is that we're going for Premier League experienced managers. No Poch. Well, no, the thing is, I don't believe Poch, we would need to wait till afterwards. It's a different situation than it is with Tuchel being the England manager. I think it's a bit different. But yeah, look, I think we'll know, and I'll try to keep you informed. I think we'll be starting discussions on that in like February or March. Yeah. Again, I think we'll weigh up that Carrick thing. Yeah, Poch could go to Spurs. We'll see. Definitely could. Like the thing with Poch is that you're seeing with the potential Spurs stuff, it's already getting reported he could join them. If we end up going for Poch, you don't have to wait till after the World Cup. We'll know early like we would with other candidates as well. I'm genuinely don't know who it's going to be, though, to be honest. I really don't. But we can't wait too long, that's for sure. It definitely screwed up our recruitment the other year. No way he goes to Spurs if we want him to. Well, that's where I think will be very revealing, you know, in that sense. If we go for him, then it'll be rather revealing. Can you tell us left wing targets too? I feel like I had some somewhere, but now I can't remember. I know I had a list of at least 2 or 3. I didn't have a lot. Semenyo and Njai were our main targets. Semenyo, Njai, and this Diomande kid are probably the main targets I would have had a month ago. Obviously, Semenyo went to City, so Diomande and Njai I would consider as 2 names to keep an eye on. If there's names beyond that, unless I'm forgetting somebody, which is altogether possible, then I don't know. I don't have other names beyond those. There's a lot of rumors building about Cole Palmer, by the way. And I'm not ready to rule them out either. I'm not personally ready to rule them out based on things. Like I can't yet rule them out. There's rumors about Cole Palmer. Obviously, I think that would be if Bruno were to leave or something. Then we'd have to. I'm not ruling that one out yet. I'm not ready to rule that out. Bring him home. Exactly. But yeah, I don't know otherwise. Okay. I think that's all I wanted to talk about today. This transfer meeting will be tomorrow, I believe. I think it's tomorrow. We'll see if a new loan target pops up out of nowhere and they come up with some brilliant idea. The names we've heard, I don't even think are worth considering. But we'll see if a new name pops up and is exciting and interesting. And otherwise, that's about it for now. Okay? There you have it. Thank you all for hanging out with me today. I did release a brief video this morning kind of discussing a lot of the same stuff as today, but in a smaller segment. So if you haven't caught up on that, you might as well. I appreciate you all very much. I hope you're all doing well. I hope everyone's doing great. I hope you're enjoying this week. I hope we can keep the positivity going. I hope we smash Arsenal at the weekend and we all get way ahead of ourselves. Because I'm almost ready. I'm not ready to get ahead of myself yet, but I'm primed. I'm lubed up and ready to get ahead of myself, okay? But I just need a little more evidence first.
James,
thank
don't
you all
often
very much.
Get the chances to catch you live. Appreciates your work.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that. Means a lot. Appreciate you. Thank you so much. All right, guys. Toss a like on the video before you head out. Subscribe to the channel. Watch earlier video from today, and I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye, everybody.